end of the financial year that we are standing at 96% of PET toilets that have been eradicated, and that only 139 of these projects remain from the 2018 back. Again, just to create a caveat here, that members, it does not mean that there are no PET toilets in South Africa or that only 139 of them exist. It says that from the 2018 backlog or audits that was done, 139 of these projects still exist. And I do also want to assure members that while we may not have met our deadline of the end of the financial year, of the previous financial year, we are working day and night to make sure that we will come and report to you once this backlog has been done and once we've launched a new audit.
Lastly, cardinals from around the world have convened at the Vatican in Rome, Italy, to start the process of electing a new pope. This comes after Pope Francis, the Church's 266th pontiff, died last month from a stroke that resulted in a coma and heart failure. Voting during the papal conclave takes place in the Sistine Chapel. The end is conducted by secret ballot, with 133 cardinals beginning the process with the traditional Holy Mass for the election of the Pope. Father Hugh O'Connor, Secretary General of the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference, explains the Church's expectation for the next Pope.
The Church, first of all, is looking for a person who exhibits holiness, a closeness to God, both spiritually and also in their daily lives. One is not looking for absolute perfection, because nobody is perfect. We're looking for a person, I think, who has leadership ability, somebody who is able to speak, as they say, truth to power, both in the church as well as in the world, somebody who's able to speak up for the voiceless, somebody who exemplifies the qualities of a good human being.
Recapping on your top stories, the UN Refugee Agency has reported an influx of Sudanese refugees fleeing Chad as violence escalates, with nearly 20,000 people, mostly women and children, arriving in the past 2 weeks alone. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Ntsinzi.
SABC News, the African perspective.
Good morning and happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us here on Channel Africa. You are in the right place if you are in search of the African perspective. We are live on www.channelafrica.co.za. You can find us on the SABC Plus app. That is a great app here from the SABC, where you can find the latest TV shows and of course the latest radio shows as well. Amongst those is Channel Africa, so find us there as well. And of course you can also find us on our audio bouquets, DSTV channel 802 and OpenView HD channel 628. Thank you so much, Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beta, for giving us the Africa Rise and Shine. It's now 9:07 Central Africa time, and it's time for On the Move with myself, Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama. We'll be with you for the next 3 hours, giving you news, views and entertainment from the African perspective. Lots to chat about as usual, so tune in. Let's hop on this ride together as we keep things moving. Well, a phenomenal online initiative that's blending innovation, education and empowerment is the most meaningful way that kicked off on Saturday. It's called Flow Tech for Girls, which is a social and technology innovation program designed by Love Your Menses, and it's introducing black and brown girls to science, technology, engineering, arts and maths activities, as well as menstrual health education. We'll be finding out a little bit more about that in the first hour of the show. Then it's our Becoming feature in the second hour. We'll be chatting about the unspoken checklist graduate by 22. Like the unspoken checklist, right? You want to be a graduate by 22. Maybe you want to be married by 30. You want to have kids after that, and then a corner office by 35. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to really check off these various things happening in our lives. But we all know, I'm sorry if you don't know yet, and I'm sorry to break it to you, but sometimes things don't actually go as we've planned or as we've imagined it.
Only sometimes.
Yeah,
not all the time.
Look, I'm trying to break bad news here. I'm not trying to make it worse, right? I'm just trying to make you adjust slowly. I'm not trying to break your entire world apart.
Okay, be nice, buddy.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice. So we'll be speaking to executive life, relationship and marriage coach from Nigeria, Dennis Agbe, to talking to us about what it means to release this particular timeline and just really reclaim your peace, reclaim your life at the pace that it presents itself as. And that's sometimes a lesson that a lot of us have to learn in our lives. So that's just some of the conversations we're having today.
Well, if we didn't learn anything from COVID, then that's it. Yeah. That's the lesson we're going to learn today.
Yeah, 100%.
And someone is very late on learning that if it's something new to them. Well, you know what? It's going to be a great journey anyway. You know, we always take it with you until midday Central African time. It's hard to do life alone, and you can do it with us here on The Move, and that's what we're all about. Remember, stay in touch with us on our multiple platforms. On WhatsApp, we're on +27 63 406 9126. You can text us or voice note us there. Hey, our live streams keep going, and we always love seeing you come in and out of those live streams during the program. Remember, let us know where you are listening to us from. Holla back at us. We always love hearing from you. It's always cool knowing that you are there. And, holla at your town, holla at your city, wherever you find yourself in, and let more people from your hood actually know about Channel Africa on that particular live stream. It's always cool knowing that you are there. So you'll find us on our Facebook page, Channel Africa. You'll find us on our Instagram using that handle at Channel Africa 1, as well as our YouTube page, also using that handle at Channel Africa 1. Hey, let's get going. It's going to be a great ride.
Este é o Caleidoscópio de Canal África, com Remo Samo e João Yabalá.
O surto da cólera em Angola tem causado grande preocupação, afetando já mais de metade das províncias do país. Simultaneamente, a Agência dos Estados Unidos para o Desenvolvimento Internacional, USAID, um dos maiores doadores mundiais de assistência humanitária, decidiu não priorizar os países com maior incidência de malária. Para discutirmos as causas do alastramento da cólera em Angola e os impactos dessa decisão da USAID, convidamos o Dr. Jeremias Agostinho, médico e mestre em saúde pública, para partilhar a sua visão sobre o tema.
A doença, nesse momento, representa o maior risco de saúde pública que nós temos. Nos últimos anos, a nossa preocupação esteve sempre centrado com os casos de malária, os casos de tuberculose e também de infecção por VIH-Sida. A forma como, em pouco menos de 2 meses, os casos de cólera vêm aumentando, acaba por representar, nessa altura, um dos maiores desafios que o país tem. É expectável que, nesta fase, o número de casos venha a aumentar.
De segunda a sexta-feira, das 20 às 21 horas locais, este é o Caleidoscópio de Canal África.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
An investigation by South Africa's non-profit organization Open Secrets has found that telecoms company MTN has played a role in shutting down the internet during elections and wars in Sudan, Cameroon, Iran, Afghanistan and Uganda, thus enabling governments to silence the opposition.
Interestingly, this isn't just unique to MTN. I think the report also looks at Vodacom DRC as being a proponent of one of these violations, particularly in shutting down the internet during the elections in 2018 and 2019. Autocratic regimes are able to utilize the licenses that they have with these telecom companies, basically to, suppress political dissent. And the result is that many people are left without connectivity. And not only does this affect people's ability to communicate with their loved ones and access vital emergency services, but also at a very basic level of access to information.
The Open Secrets investigator, Lu Forno Unduli.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa. Weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Central African Time. 9 to 12 midday Central African Time. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama. The world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. for business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African...
15 Central Africa time, and we're going into the conversations of the day right here on Channel Africa. Well, there's been a phenomenal online initiative that's blending innovation, education, and empowerment in the most meaningful way, and it kicked off on Saturday. It's called the Flow Tech for Girls, which is a social and technology innovation program designed by Love Your Menses, which is introducing black and brown girls between the ages of 11 to 16 to what they call STEAM. I know you think about mostly the STEM subjects, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. But this STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts and maths activities, but they're also introducing them to mental health education, civic engagement, and mentorship. And we're going to be unpacking this particular initiative right now. We have joining us on the line to really unpack this and chat about what this initiative is all about. Itumeleng Botlhoko, businesswoman and the Botswana South Africa chapter president for Love Your Menses Incorporated, a menstrual equity advocacy and grassroots development organization. Itumeleng, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, dear. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Thank you so much for your time. This is quite interesting because we speak a lot about some of the, the social ills that young black and brown girls on the continent actually go through. And it's important to have innovations and innovative, systems and programs that allow women and young girls to grow in various sectors. STEM sectors obviously being very important in the past couple of years. And I love the fact that you've included arts in this. Tell us a little bit more about what brings together this Flow Tech for Girls initiative.
Well, essentially, with our primary mission as Love Your Menses is to educate people, not just girls, by the way, but everybody, on the menstruation system, the related conditions, and the sort of remedies that exist, because there's not even enough research in this space. So with Flow Tech for Girls, we're targeting young girls, preteens, 11 to 15-year-olds, who are going to be educated on the menstrual cycle as we know it in school, but we go even deeper. We go into how the hormones affect you on a day-to-day basis during the course of your cycle. We cover the fact that, in the beginning it's not consistent. We cover the fact that there are certain conditions that some medical practitioners to this day still dismiss and say, oh, just go home and rest and take painkillers, instead of investigating deeper what the causes of some of these conditions are. So with Flow Tech for Girls, we are taking that menstrual education and adding the useful tech that's been developed around the world that helps us monitor our period, understand the different conditions we're going through, and essentially, obviously, this tech also, captures the data, and that contributes to research.
Well, tell us about, all the different things that young girls will be learning at this particular program, the Flow Tech for Girls, because it is really important to really learn across the African continent and across the world that young girls understand, and everyone really understands, what happens during the menstrual cycle, the psychology and physiology of it all, but also how to tackle it in a society that sometimes, puts women on the backtrack simply because they experience this menstrual cycle. But on top of that, you're bringing in a very important subject matters, STEM plus art, which you call STEAM, that really are the future of work for everyone, and also particularly for girls on the continent.
Yes. So essentially, sorry, I missed your primary question. You went quite broad, and then
so
I followed.
I'm speaking about the introduction as well, outside of the menstrual cycle education, the bringing in those STEM or STEAM subjects that you are introducing to the girls through activities. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so in terms of the art element, what we introduce to the young girls is performance art through public speaking. As we go through, like in every workshop that we have, and we hold these on Saturday afternoons. We started this past Saturday. We challenge the girls to participate and to express themselves. The ones who were with us last year joined us, for example, when we started off this past Saturday, and they shared the experience, and the confidence with which they were speaking was evident, and it's something that we know has inspired the other young girls. Because, I mean, we were talking to a 12-year-old, this past Saturday, who had participated last year, and she was based in Nigeria. And so we teach them the art of being, well first of all, by demystifying the menstruation subject, we give these girls a sense of confidence to be able to talk about it without shame, understanding obviously that, you talk about it in certain contexts, but when you do talk about it, no need to be coy. So public speaking is a primary skill that we believe is necessary. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple of programs that are inclined to, where participants learn and develop confidence to talk about public speaking. One of the things we do, for example, is have the girls, obviously they participate via chat messaging on the Zoom platform, and then and then as the program goes on, we're then going to have them do videos where they record themselves making a brief presentation, like a 1-minute video, talking about specific aspects of the things that they would have learned. So the art aspect is in that, but then obviously there's also diagrams and the use of imagery to communicate the sensitive subject of menstruation. As you know, for many societies, menstruation is almost a taboo topic. It's something that may be spoken only by women, by girls in particular, or maybe it's even spoken of only on the first day of your period. And then after that, you don't have a conversation with your mother about it. That's my story at home. My mom and I talked about menstruation on the first day of my period, and then she never initiated the topic again unless I brought it up. So we essentially also, expose young girls to the different type of imagery that help communicate what is happening in our bodies. And some of them continue, by the way, to then become menstrual equity advocates.
Love that.
Who have been doing amazing work in their local communities, just, taking opportunities to address audiences, both young and old, to talk about the fact that there's issues such as period poverty. There are issues such as, just the lack of research, the lack of appropriate medication to help deal with conditions. And even just, bringing a more human face to the medical practice for even gynecologists who find the subject in certain aspects uncomfortable, or perhaps they take for granted the sort of really bad symptoms that some of us go through as we go through the menstrual cycle on a monthly basis.
All right, Itumeleng, I'm going to stop you there. Apologies. We need to take a break, but it's going to be a really quick break. Stay on the line with us, and then we'll come back and continue unpacking the work that you guys are doing. You are saying that you are preparing the next generation of Femitech leaders, and we'll find out more on how you're doing that through this Flow Tech for Girls workshop. It's 22 minutes past 9 Central Africa time. Stay with us.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
All right, 23 minutes past 9 o'clock Central African time, speaking to Tshimologo Butloko, businesswoman, and also is part of the South Africa chapter of Love Your Menses. In fact, the president of that particular chapter. Love Your Menses is an organization that really focuses on menstrual equity advocacy and grassroots development organization that also tries to debunk some of the issues around menstrual wellness. Now, let's come back to this STEAM aspect of things as we carry on the conversation, Itumeleng. Sometimes when you think about STEM subjects, you leave out the creativity element, and it's very interesting that this initiative also includes the arts. Why was that important? Why was the arts something that you need to incorporate? Because I know that stereotypically you're like, people with science, technology interests in engineering want nothing to do with the arts, but that's far from the truth, is it?
Yes, no, absolutely. Look, art is actually a fundamental part of our development and expression as human beings. Creative expression is something we do as children through play and coming up with concepts amidst our playing context. It's something that, is also key to continued creativity and innovation in the work people do as adults.
Yeah.
So we value and emphasize the fact that a child should have development, should have a broad foundation in terms of how they learn, and including learning through creative methods.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because what kind of techniques then would you incorporate in that particular program to make it more of a comprehensive approach that includes the arts as well?
Yes, there's this platform called Google Labs, literally at labs.google.
Sure.
It's a platform where we're going to be introducing these young participants to creating AI products. And so they're going to, through the education they would have gotten on menstrual health, we're going to be challenging them and giving them support to develop a menstrual equity, menstrual education sort of app through Google Labs. And so through the program with our tech leads and facilitators, and by the way, I'm not into tech, so there's so much that I can share about it. But essentially through Google Labs and other apps that exist that we're going to be introducing the girls to, we're going to orient them to the possibilities of what AI can do, and then challenge them to actually develop an app that will be useful for the menstrual journey that women go through.
Yeah, let's talk about the girls being in cross-cultural experiences, because the girls are coming from different countries like Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, but also the United States, countries also here in SADC, South Africa, Botswana. How does that actually influence the vitality of this particular program? I mean, I think that cross-country lesson is so important, because sometimes here on the African continent we grow in silos and we don't really know the full African experience or even the full human experience outside of our own contexts.
By running this program globally, and by the way, in Africa we're also in Liberia, in the Gambia,
okay,
and the other countries. So obviously Ghana, Nigeria, you've mentioned those. Essentially, what we want to show the girls is that the menstrual journey is a universal experience for girls all over the world.
Sure.
We also want them to have an appreciation of the fact that the world is accessible to them. Through this program and meeting one another online every week, these girls get to bond over a sensitive subject that's personal to each and every one of them. So some of them go on to develop friendships, and because we do encourage them to chat on the platform on Zoom. We obviously expect their parents to also be present during the workshop sessions. But essentially, we encourage them to connect and make these and establish these bonds that could last them a lifetime if they're lucky. Because at the end of the day, as we know, one country's reality may not necessarily be exactly the same as another's, and so this exposure helps them open their minds to what is possible out there. The idea is to really inspire them to understand that they are global citizens.
Where do you want to see this going? Because I think when we speak about menstrual health, we still have a long way to go. Many people continue to speak about it. It's becoming really mainstreamed. It's become very fashionable to talk about. However, the work on the ground seems like there still needs to be some energy put there.
The truth is, our vision and our desire is to find public spaces, office spaces, schools equipped with basic menstrual products, so that when periods do come, because they can come by surprise for many of us, that there are the tools we need are there in the toilets, at the guidance and counseling office, so that we don't have to go through the shame of then having to find our way home while we're bleeding. So the idea is to also make workplaces, places that are safe, that feel safe for menstruators. So, for example, with our corporate programs, what we basically offer activities that plug into wellness days and wellness programs that organizations have, to have both men and women appreciate what the menstrual journey is, how it affects women, so that there could be more empathy. As you know, there's some people who every month they go through vomiting, excruciating pain.
Yeah.
Dramatic changes in temperament that are because of the hormones and the conditions that their bodies find themselves in. So we raise awareness about these sensitive subjects as well, so that should a man or a young boy, though in terms of teenage boys, should they witness this, they can have empathy toward the menstruator and be able to take proactive, constructive action.
All right, we have to leave it there, unfortunately. Thank you so much, Itumeleng. Where can people go to know more about this Flow Tech for Girls initiative and more about Love Your Menses?
We have our website, loveyourmenses.com. We are also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, though I think TikTok, we're not as active on it as yet. But essentially on those platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you can follow us there. We make posts and updates, and we also promote the other programs we have, which are suitable for schools, for adults, coaching programs as well. So there's quite a lot that people can get from this.
Well, thank you so much, Itumeleng, for joining us here on Channel Africa, and keep doing the great work.
Thank you so much.
That's Itumeleng Botlhoko, who is a businesswoman and also part of the Botswana South Africa chapter. She's a president for that chapter within the Love Your Menses organization, which is a menstrual equity advocacy and grassroots development organization there. That takes us to 9:31 Central African time. Do you think we're doing enough when it comes to educating young girls around menstruation on the African continent? Remember that WhatsApp number on +27 63406 9126. That's +27 63406 9126. Thank you everyone who's been joining us on that live stream. I see Omwale is joining us there, saying I'm watching from Malawi, actually saying I'm Mr. Sainani and I am loud and clear. I see Njakwa Ephraim is also watching there as well. Everyone else who's watching, don't keep silent in that live stream. When you get in there, let us know where you're listening to us from. Seems like Malawi is shouting out everyone on that live stream. If you get there as well, let us know where you're listening to us from. Well, let's quickly move on now and get our latest sports update.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
And a very good morning from the sports desk. I am Mosibudi Makura with your latest sports news at the Sawa. So Paris Saint-Germain forward Ousmane Dembele is fit for tonight's UEFA Champions League semi-final second leg against Arsenal after recovering from a hamstring injury. Now the France international was considered a doubt after coming off midway through the second half of last week's first leg at the Emirates Stadium. The 27-year-old who scored the only goal in North London missed Paris Saint-Germain's weekend League One defeat against Strasbourg, but resumed training on Monday. Dembele, who moved to the French capital from Barcelona back in 2023, is PSG's top goal scorer with 33 goals in all competition. Now, PSG lead the tie 1-0 on aggregate, with the two teams meeting for the second leg later on tonight at 9 p.m. Central African time, looking, of course, for a place in the final, where the winner of this tie will face off with Inter Milan in the final of the UEFA Champions League. Well, Cristiano Ronaldo's eldest son has been called up to the Portugal under-15 squad for the first time. The 14-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo Jr. is at now Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia with his father, who signed for the Pro League side in December of 2022. So Portugal great Ronaldo posted a picture on social media of his son's name on the national team squad list. Ronaldo Jr. has been called up for the youth tournament in Croatia between the 13th as well as the 18th of May, with Portugal scheduled to play Japan, Greece as well as England. While defending Rome Open champion Alexander Zverev said he's now on a good path, putting upon a run of form following his defeat at the Australian Open final down to burnout. The 28-year-old world number 2 put an end to the dry run, which included opening round defeats at Indian Wells as well as Monte Carlo, by winning the ATP title in Munich in mid-April. The German, who is still seeking for his first ever Grand Slam title, said he would in retrospect, or rather should in retrospect, have taken time off, losing to Jannik Sinner in straight sets in the Australian Open final at the end of January. Zverev said the life of a professional tennis player was a cycle of travelling as well as playing without any time to rest. Zverev, though, said he believed one day he would be the world number 1, and also lashed out at the media for belittling him when he was enduring a bad run of tennis. Meanwhile, two-time Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova won her first match since the birth of her first child and then said she was close to quitting tennis. The Czech Republican claimed a 7-5, 6-1 win over Romania's Irina Camelia Begu in the first round of the Italian Open in Rome on Tuesday. Her victory ended a run of 4 defeats since the 35-year-old returned to competitive action about 15 months away, during which she gave birth to her son. Kvitova, who won Wimbledon back in 2011 and 2014 and also reached world number 2 during her time as a player, said that she had doubted whether she would be able to return to the international arena. Meanwhile, speaking after her win yesterday, she said she was satisfied with her performance.
I'm glad I got a win finally.
Yes.
You know, it took a while. I had some chances even before in some of the matches, but getting the win, I think, is the big relief, I would say. I was, too much focusing on it, so I'm glad it's there. I'm done with it, so I can just go forward and see what the future brings. But I'm very happy how I managed it today. As you mentioned, I was feeling the same on the court, actually, saving those break points, and
And finally, Liv Golf's Dustin Johnson has been given a special invitation to compete in next week's PGA Championship at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte in North Carolina. That's according to the field unveiled on Tuesday for the year's second major. Now, winners of the last 5 Masters are eligible to play in the PGA Championship, which also means former world number 1 Johnson's exemption from his 2020 triumph at Augusta National had run out. But according to the PGA Championship eligibility requirements, the PGA of America, which is the national governing body as well as the organizer of the major, they reserve the right to invite additional players who did not meet the other eligibility criteria. Now, former world number 1 Johnson missed the cut at last month's Masters and also has recorded top 10 finishes in 7 Liv Golf events so far this season. The the two-time major winner who finished runner-up at the PGA Championship back in 2019 and 2020 will be one of the 16 Liv members of the 156-player field next week. And that concludes your sports news this hour. I'm back with more sporting updates in the next hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. It's 9:37 a.m. Central African Time for Channel Africa Sport. I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Vue d'Afrique avec Joël Mouteba.
C'est-à-dire, quelles sont les motivations derrière la décision du général Mamadi Doumbouya d'accorder la grâce présidentielle à Moussa Dadis Camara?
Alors, officiellement ici, c'est pour des raisons de santé, et puis le décret aussi a ajouté que c'est dans un élan de réconciliation nationale et c'est un cas social. Mais au-delà de ça, les analystes ils voient sous un angle politique. Les moins critiques estiment que c'est pour peut-être faciliter un petit peu la réconciliation que pourrait tenter aujourd'hui le CNSD.
Vue d'Afrique. Du lundi au vendredi de 15h à 16h, temps universel.
Thank you, Musiboudi, for that sports update. For now, let's get our latest business update with Chanduko Lekeke.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Palesa and Benjamin. Good morning. Nigeria's Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited has halted oil shipments via its Okodia Ramoe-Kepe pipeline in the coastal Rivers State following a spill. According to the Youths and Environmental Advocacy Center, the pipeline, which transports crude oil south to the Ramoe-Kepe manifold for export via the Boni terminal, experienced the spill in the early hours of Monday in Ikata community in the Ahoda East district of the state. The environmental group's volunteer network initially detected the spill. Nigeria has approved a $652 million China Exim Bank funding package for construction of a road to move goods from a seaport and petroleum refinery on the edge of its main city, Lagos, to its southern states. The financing was approved by the Federal Executive Council, chaired by President Bola Tinubu on Monday. The road will be an evacuation corridor from the Lekki Deep Sea Port. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery, Africa's biggest, with refining capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, and its adjoining fertilizer plant to at least a dozen southern states. In Southern Africa, South Africa and Botswana have signed a new agreement aimed at addressing Botswana's ongoing power shortages. This emerged during a recent meeting between South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and his counterpart Duma Boko in Johannesburg. Botswana has been struggling with intermittent power supply disruptions, leading to increased reliance on imports from neighboring countries. Boko has described the latest agreement as durable and meaningful.
We have now an agreement that we've just concluded in relation to addressing power shortages in Botswana and having a more durable, more meaningful arrangement that departs from what we've had before, which was to buy at emergency prices. Now we've settled it at a reasonable scale, and we will improve our power situation that side in collaboration with South Africa.
Still in Southern Africa, the Namibia Statistics Agency, NCA, is currently conducting the 2025-26 Namibia Household Income and Expenditure Survey, a data collection exercise aimed at providing current information for national development planning. This will be the fifth household income and expenditure survey conducted, serving as the primary source of household income and expenditure data, crucial for calculating poverty and inequality indicators in Namibia. Statistician General and CEO at the Namibia Statistics Agency, Alex Shimwafeni.
Now, the primary objective is to collect detailed information on income as well as on spending patterns of households across the country. And here I'm referring to households because as a statistics agency, we normally do household-based surveys. Now, the data is very essential for measuring poverty levels in the country. We need to assess the living standards of people in the country.
In news outside of the continent, the UK and India have signed a free trade agreement which both countries hope will support sectors hit by US tariffs. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the agreement ambitious and mutually beneficial. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said it was the biggest trade deal the UK had signed since leaving the EU.
This is a historic day for the United Kingdom and for India, because this is the biggest trade deal that we, the UK, have done since we left the EU, and it's the most ambitious trade deal that India has ever done. And this will be measured in billions of pounds into our economy and jobs across the whole of the United Kingdom.
Let's have a look at financial indicators this morning. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 605. In Botswana, 13 bula 47. Kenya, the dollar is at 128 shilling 346. Zambia, 27 kwacha 27. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 69. Russia, 80 rubles 92. India, 84 rupee 40. China, 7 yuan 21. South Africa, $1 is at 18 rand 23. $1 is at 75 pence to the British pound, 88 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,384, platinum at $983 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil, $62.64 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email, newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Mix Vibration sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons accueillir sur ces plateaux de Mix Vibration un artiste pas comme les autres. Il est exceptionnel. Il se classe résolument dans la trajectoire des artistes qui défendent le patrimoine du folklore africain, mais aussi de la rumba. Ici, Jérémy Tchani.
En tout cas, je vous dis merci à la Channel Africa, à tout le monde qui nous suit. Dans la vie, si tu veux aller loin, il faut comprendre les temps. Il y a ceux-là qui étaient dans leur temps, mais à cause d'une mauvaise conduite, à cause des gens qui l'accompagnait, à cause de sa famille, à cause beaucoup de choses, son temps passé.
Voilà, donc il faut toujours gérer le temps. Chaque chose a son temps, dit-on, et la couronne ne dure pas éternellement, dit-on. Donc il faut toujours gérer le temps que Dieu vous a donné sur la terre. C'est le message que Jérémy Tchani nous amène aujourd'hui sur Mix Vibration à Channel Africa.
Mix Vibration, tous les dimanches de 18h à 19h, temps universel. Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. Ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and life.
Channel Africa giving you the African perspective. Really good one to start off with. A beautiful initiative for women. And it reminds me of the conversation we had a little bit earlier this week, speaking about feminism and, the various programs that take place in the world to encourage feminism and to also really, be for women. And we still know that young girls across the world are still on the back foot when it comes to social issues. And even menstrual health is still such a taboo subject matter all across the world. So it's a beautiful initiative to see indeed. Let's continue having these conversations together. Join us on our live stream. We love to have you there. Let us know where you are listening to us from so we can shout out your city, shout out your country, and of course shout you out as a part of the Channel Africa family. Before we wrap things up, we'll be keeping the conversations going into the next hour of the show, and it's quite an interesting one that's coming up in that particular hour. We're going to be looking at a conversation about, your unspoken checklist. What did you think that you would have acquired or you would have, achieved by a certain age in your life? Maybe you wanted to make sure that you were honors graduate by a certain age. Maybe you wanted to make sure that you had children at a certain age, or you wanted to have a particular career, a milestone at a certain age, or maybe even a house and a car at a particular age. Is life going according to the script that you wrote down for yourself? Yet there are very few people, in fact, that life does go according to their script, and they really have, had amazing stories to tell. But for most of us, life really doesn't really go according to that script. It is quite non-linear, and we'll be chatting about that in the next hour of the show, more about how to release this timeline that we have for ourselves and just enjoy your life as it is. Reclaim your peace and honor your own becoming, honor your own timeline as it comes to you, and not particularly as you've planned it to be. So definitely looking forward to that in our becoming feature in the next hour of the show. Well, before we head on over to that hour, let's get a little bit more music before we go to our news.
Get set and be ready to go. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama. Lifestyle. We deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle. We deliver an engaging
to our live stream there. Njikwa Ephraim and Lanzi Njunga, Ishmael Mpondo is there on our live stream. Thank you for joining us there, representing the continent there on our live stream. Let us know where you are listening to Channel Africa from, and we'll shout your city, we'll shout you out right here on our radio. We are broadcasting right here in Johannesburg, South Africa. You're listening to us on DSTV Channel 802, OpenView 628. Remember, you can stream us anywhere in the world on www.channelafrica.co.za and also on the live stream. Well, we're moving into the second hour, and let's preface that conversation that we're about to have, because it's a very important conversation, right? Because there are so many expectations, not that just society has for us and our lives, but also we also formulate certain expectation. In fact, when you are a young child, you were groomed in such a way to have expectations for yourself. Remember when you were a little boy or a little girl, what are you going to become? When you are old, what do you want to become? I want to become a doctor. Didn't all of us say that?
What's the first thing that you ever wanted to become?
I don't remember. Absolutely not, because I think I changed from one thing to the next.
Yeah, me too. But I remember the first thing that I wanted to be. I think I was around grade 1, grade 2.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a vet. That's the first thing I ever wanted to be.
You loved animals that much?
I loved animals. We had dogs at home, and I really loved animals in general. So the first thing I ever wanted to be was a vet.
Okay.
I'm not a vet.
No,
right
no,
now.
You're not a vet. You are not, unless I'm the dog.
Unless you're the animal that I'm working with,
which is not the case.
No.
And those expectations are really starting at that point in life when they, you are told and informed on how you should actually be. But also, there's kind of a path that everyone kind of assimilates to and thinks it is the way to be, where you have to go to school, pass school, actually after school you get children, after getting children, maybe before getting children you get married, and maybe after then you'll get children, then you have a nice car, and then you'll buy a beautiful
and a big
house. And then that's
and you live happily ever after into the sunset.
Yeah, and what most people or adults will tell you is that after you accumulate all of that, that's where you really try to figure out what is your purpose of life. Why I've accumulated all these things, I've done all these fantastic things, but what is this life thing all about? I don't know. It's not really about acquiring, is it? It's not really about getting these material things that we have, and that's the tricky part, and that's where you kind of try to figure out your peace and who you are. And when that whole dream also is not fulfilled, sometimes people are striving for that dream, right? And it doesn't come true and it doesn't actually happen. Then what do you do when all the things that you are hoping would be you in life don't actually match the real script of life? And that's what we're going to chat about a little bit later. It's 1000 hours Central African time. Remember, you can let us know where you are listening to us on our live stream. We see you there, Africa. Which city are you watching from? Which town on the African continent? Country are you listening to Channel Africa from? Let us know. 1000 hours Central African time right now. Let's get our second hour news update.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. Looking at your top stories, anti-aircraft system intercepts drones targeting Sudan's largest naval base, and the process of electing a new pope gets underway. Your latest news, greetings to our listeners. Sudan's army has reported that its anti-aircraft system intercepted drones targeting the country's largest naval base in the wartime capital, Port Sudan, earlier today. Port Sudan has been hit by days of assaults, including reported drone strikes by Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces that have torched the country's biggest fuel depot and damaged its main gateway for the humanitarian aid. The city on the Red Sea coast became the base for the army-aligned government. This after the RSF swept through much of the capital, Khartoum, at the start of the conflict in 2023. The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, has reported an influx of Sudanese refugees fleeing to Chad as violence escalates, with nearly 20,000 people, mostly exhausted and traumatized women and children, arriving in the past 2 weeks alone. The UNHCR representative in Chad, Magid Giz, told a UN briefing in Geneva that the largest influx has been at the Tyne border crossing in Wadi Fira province, where almost 6,000 people arrived within just 2 days. UNHCR global spokesperson Eugene Bayun explains.
Almost 800,000 Sudanese refugees crossing the border. And now that we're seeing a much dire situation of the Sudanese refugees, most women and children crossing the border, completely traumatized because of the violence they witness in the Darfur region, and they're walking several days without food with their children. We're hearing that a lot of children separated from their family while this chaotic flight to save their life. They just fly. This is a crisis of women and children, those vulnerable population.
A Zimbabwean journalist has been released on bail after spending more than 2 months in prison awaiting trial. Palesa Mhlanga was arrested in February when the TV station where he worked broadcast a press conference critical of the Zimbabwean president. The BBC's Shinganyoka reports.
The court granted Mhlanga $500 bail and ordered him to surrender his passport during the hearing, his fourth attempt at bail and second appeal to the High Court. Zimbabwe has faced increasing pressure, including from the UK House of Lords, over his lengthy stay in prison on 2 charges of inciting violence. His lawyers argued that a substantial time had passed since the state had asked for more time to investigate the case against him. Mhlanga denies any connection to 2 broadcasts in which war veterans called for President Emmerson Mnangagwa to resign. His trial is due to start next week.
U.S. President Donald Trump's administration may deport migrants to Libya for the first time this week. This is part of his immigration crackdown, and despite Washington's past condemnation of Libya's harsh treatment of detainees. The Republican president, who made immigration a major issue during his election campaign, has launched aggressive enforcement action since taking office, surging troops to the southern border and pledging to deport millions of immigrants in the United States illegally. Trump's administration has tried to encourage migrants to leave voluntarily by threatening steep fines, trying to strip away legal status, and deporting migrants to notorious prisons in Guantanamo Bay and El Salvador. Cardinals from around the world have convened at the Vatican in Rome, Italy, to start the process of electing a new pope. This comes after Pope Francis, the Church's 266th pontiff, died last month from a stroke that resulted in a coma and a heart failure. Voting during the papal conclave takes place in the Sistine Chapel and is conducted by secret ballots with 133 cardinals, beginning the process with the traditional Holy Mass for the election of the Pope. Father Hugh O'Connor, Secretary General of the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference, explains the Church's expectation for the next Pope.
The Church, first of all, is looking for a person who exhibits holiness, a closeness to God, both spiritually and also in their daily lives. One is not looking for absolute perfection, because nobody is perfect. We're looking for a person, I think, who has leadership ability, somebody who is able to speak, as they say, truth to power, both in the church as well as in the world. Somebody who's able to speak up for the voiceless. Somebody who exemplifies the qualities of a good human being.
Now, recapping on your top stories, Sudan's army has reported that its anti-aircraft system intercepted drones targeting the country's largest naval base in the wartime capital, Port Sudan, earlier today. Port Sudan has been hit by days of assaults, included reported drone strikes by Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Okay, what does becoming mean? That's what we try to figure out in the second hour. It's our new feature that we've recently introduced. And, if you want to transform, if you want to become somebody, if you want to attract others into your own environment, if you want to be a better person, this is the feature to actually check out. That's our becoming feature that comes to you every week from us, where we explore how to make ourselves a better people. How do we become more attractive, not just in terms of our external selves, but also internally? How do we make sure that we are becoming better people? Well, that's what we're going to be checking out in our second hour, and we're going to be speaking to executive life, relationship and marriage coach from Nigeria, Dennis Agbeti. He's going to talk to us on the line about the expectations that you have for your life. Maybe you thought that as a man at the age of maybe 25, you will be married. Maybe by the age of 30, you will have a couple of kids and you'll have your home and you'll have your Pajero there in your backyard, living the big life. And then, no, you're still unemployed right now and the script didn't unfold the way that you are hoping for. Or maybe you're still stuck in that low-level job and you're not getting that promotion that you are hoping for. That's what we're going to be talking about. What if your life doesn't unfold like the script? Should you keep giving yourself the pressure that life seems to give us, or should you reclaim your own space? Should you determine things with your own pace and time? That's what the executive life coach will help us. That's Dennis Agbeti, who'll join us on the line in a few minutes' time.
I was out on safari this weekend.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful experience, and we had a dedicated a game ranger. His name was William. Very, very nice, friendly guy, and very good at his job. He knows a lot about the nature, the plants, the animals, the birds, you name it, everything that's out there. But we got to really chat to him and get to know him a little bit more. He's 29 years old, and he's been a ranger for a number of years now, for about maybe 6 or 7 years. And he's 29, and he feels like he wants to stop being a game ranger because, he's always out in the bush and he gets very little time to be, at home. And now he wants to start a family. He doesn't even have a girlfriend yet.
Yeah, how old is he?
29.
All right.
And he spoke a little bit about, he felt like he should have a house by now. And, he wants to start a family and he can't really do it with the job that he's doing now. So he's doing this game ranger thing for the last time this year. And he wants to come back to the city and meet more people.
Like the rest of us.
Like the rest of us, and find a nice woman and maybe buy a house and, start over his life.
I'll swap his life any day. I'd love to be in nature all day,
I know. And he lives a really amazing life. I mean, the place that we're in and living there every day of the year, well, most days of the year, is incredible. But yeah, he just spoke a little bit more, and this conversation reminds me of him to say, you know what, your life might seem perfect to somebody else, but you want something else for yourself that you feel like you should have achieved at that particular time. So I'm looking forward to actually unpacking this conversation. This is a conversation that many of us have gone through at some point in life. At Channel Africa 1, let's engage together on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We are live on 3 platforms: YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. On Facebook, we are simply Channel Africa, but we'd love to hear your voice as well. Let us know what you think your life was going to become and what it actually is on +27 63 406 9126.
Mix Vibration sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons accueillir sur ces plateaux de Mix Vibration un artiste pas comme les autres. Il est exceptionnel. Il se classe résolument dans la trajectoire des artistes qui défendent le patrimoine du folklore africain, mais aussi de la rumba. Ici, Jérémy Tchani.
En tout cas, je vous dis merci à la Channel Africa, à tout le monde qui nous suit. Dans la vie, si tu veux aller loin, il faut comprendre les temps. Il y a ceux-là qui étaient dans leur temps, mais à cause d'une mauvaise conduite, à cause des gens qui l'accompagnait, à cause de sa famille, à cause beaucoup de choses, son temps passé.
Voilà, donc il faut toujours gérer le temps. Chaque chose a son temps, dit-on. Et la couronne ne dure pas éternellement, dit-on. Donc il faut toujours gérer le temps que Dieu vous a donné sur la terre. C'est le message que Jérémy Tchani nous amène aujourd'hui sur Mix Vibration à Channel Africa.
Mix Vibration, tous les dimanches de 18h à 19h, temps universel.
Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa on the move.
Hey, it's time for our Becoming feature. This is when we're trying to grow together and become better people. And we love this feature because it's actually one that all of us can gain something from. Well, remember that checklist that you didn't really speak about, or maybe you did voice that by the age of 22, I'll be actually a graduate, but that didn't happen. Married by the age of 30. No, you actually didn't meet anyone. You tried TikTok. You tried to meet someone on all these social media platforms. Didn't happen. Kids soon after. Maybe you're having problems conceiving. A corner office before the age of 35 and you're going to be the boss of the entire department. Yeah, I'm still dreaming of that life. What if your life doesn't unfold like a script? What if your growth is slower? What if life is a little bit messier and maybe more richer for that? Or just life is very different? Is it important that we disrupt the race to milestones and create space for us all to walk in a non-linear, intentional path where we can just build our dreams in our own time, in our own terms, whether you're unmarried at the age of 40, ladies? I know that one is one that is a pressure for you. You didn't get a child at the age of 30. Yeah, will I ever conceive? That's a big question for you ladies as well, and a societal pressure. And at times you're like, maybe this is an imposition that I have to have a child. Well, let's find out more about this pace of life and reclaiming our space with executive life, relationship and marriage coach from Nigeria, Dennis Egbeti, who joins us on the line to talk about this. Dennis, thank you for joining us here on Channel Africa.
Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm super excited to be here with you this morning.
As we speak about this with Bali just in the last hour, and just saying we are groomed to want to be something. We are groomed with so many timelines. At this particular age, I must be finished with school. At this age, I must have graduated. By this time, I hope that I'll buy my first car. There's so many expectation and checklists that we have in our lives. Is it a part of life that's necessary? Or is it something that is imposed by ourselves and society that is not necessary?
Yes, thank you for this. This is a very important discussion because a lot of people are being caged by societal programming and societal expectations. Most times I found that one of the most difficult questions people have to ask is, or difficult questions for people to answer is, what do you want? When I ask people those questions, you realize that people have not necessarily articulated what they really want. They talk about what society wants, what my parents want, what my friends want. And people are under pressure. And because of this pressure and the fact that some of these societal expectations are unrealistic, a lot of women and even men are working with shame. They're ashamed of themselves because they've not been able to meet up with these societal expectations. They've not been able to meet up with this societal programming. So you see people working with shame, working with regret, working with lost identity. They've lost their sense of self because they've tagged themselves as a failure because we've not met societal timelines.
Yeah.
And it is time for us to, break free and break out of these expectations so that we can really enjoy our being and become who we are meant to be.
Let's talk more about that, Dennis, because as a young boy or a young girl, you are asked at a very young age, what do you want to become? Hey, I want to become a doctor. I want to become a nurse. All conventional kind of answers that society has informed us to actually answer. But I think that's where the unsolicited expectation comes from, when those answers should be answered by little babies or infants at a time where they haven't really defined who they are and they don't really know the path they want to take.
Yeah, so and that's one of the things that we need to start educating ourselves over. That first, life is changing. Things are changing very, very fast. When we're younger, when they asked us, what do you want to become? We say, I want to become a pilot. I want to become a medical doctor. I want to become a lawyer. Most of us didn't achieve that. And because so many people didn't achieve their childhood dreams, they now tag themselves as failure. And you've met a lot of depressed people, a lot of hopeless people, a lot of people that don't work in purpose, and they feel their life is meaningless. And we need to start changing that narrative, that you can be what you really want to be, and you can can just be, and you don't have to see yourself as a failure because you don't meet certain expectation. You are a human being, not a human doing. You are not what you do. You are who you are. And if you keep attaching your sense of identity by what you have achieved or by what you have become, you are not going to walk in love. And anytime you're not walking in self-love, you begin to malfunction. And love is simply accepting yourself, regardless of what you don't have or what you have. Regardless of what you have achieved or what you've not achieved, regardless of what your mistakes, your shortcomings, when you love yourself, what it means is that you are accepting yourself regardless. You are kind to yourself regardless. You are benevolent towards yourself regardless of what you have or what you don't have. And we need to start teaching people about love first and being first before doing.
I love that. That's like a moment of hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. That's the best way I can respond to that one. And that's the thing. Let's talk a little bit about it, because I want to just go against that grain, right? Because someone might be saying, I hear you. That is very inspirational, Dennis. And I'm at a place right now that I love myself to a large degree, but life is not showing me the same love that I feel for myself. I've tried to look for jobs. I've tried to start my own businesses. I've tried to we've been trying with my partner to have a baby. It's not working for us. It just seems like everything that I try to do in this life, despite the fact that I have a sense of self-worth and self-love, I'm just not getting that success that I want. What do we say to that person?
Okay, fantastic question. First, you must realize that you need to have a healthy relationship with failure. You need to have a healthy relationship with setback. Failure, setback, delays are part of life. And most times, those things are what you need to get to the success. They asked Bill Gates, what is your definition of success? He said, success is moving from failure to failure to failure to failure without losing enthusiasm until you get to your goal. Now, the opposite of failure is not success. The opposite of success is not failure, because failure is part of success. So what do you do when you're trying to hit certain goals and it's not going? You need to understand something. The first thing is that you need to understand, apart from understand that failure is not success. The second thing you need to do practically is that you need to focus only on what you can control. Many a times when you focus on things that are outside of your control, you are going to feel out of control.
Yeah.
You are going to lose control over your emotions, and you are going to you lose your critical balance. Focus only on what you can control, right? The second thing is that focus on what you have and not what you don't have.
Yeah.
Many of us feel stuck because our focus most times is on what we don't have.
Yeah.
What takes you out of that position of not being stuck is appreciating what you have and using what you have while you are working towards what you don't have. Number three, focus on progress, not perfection. The journey is as important as the destination.
Okay, I need to pause you there because I need to take a break. The journey is as important as the destination. I've heard that so many times. I want us to unpack that a little bit more, because most of the time we feel like the destination is when I've actually gotten my degree that makes me the person I am. It's actually this car that I've bought that makes me the person I am. It's the clothes that I'm wearing that make me the person I am. But, is it really about those things. And I love the fact that you say that success is moving from failure from failure to failure to failure without losing that enthusiasm. We'll unpack that a little bit more. Becoming is the feature that you're listening to right now, and we're joined by our guest who's unpacking this pressure of that I'm losing time and I'm running out of time. Where's my family? Where's my job? Where are all the things that I was dreaming of when I was a little bit younger? Want them now? What's happening to them? We'll expand more on this conversation after the break.
The Midnight Snack, every Monday, 12 to 3 a.m. with Chanduko Ligege.
That is just me trying to imagine myself as a backup singer for Zonke, because her music is just beautiful. As the song was playing, I was just, moving like a backup singer. You know how they are, with their hands being so dramatic and, putting that spice into the song. So the song is called Say Now, and we love it here on the Midnight Snack. I hope you also love it.
Let's talk love, intimacy, and relationships on the Midnight Snack with Chanduko Ligege. Keeping you on the know and on the move.
So what if life doesn't look exactly as you imagined? So what if it's not all rosy? And so what if the path that you thought you were going to take changes? Sometimes on the other side of that changed path is a new hope and an even better outcome than you had imagined for yourself. This is our becoming feature here on the Move. And we're speaking to executive life, relationship and marriage coach Dennis Agbeti about that unspoken checklist that we have for ourselves, but more about releasing that timeline, reclaiming your life and reclaiming your peace. Thank you for staying with us, Dennis. I'm going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate, because sometimes we use these quotes, some of them that you've used quite well in the first segment of this conversation, and some people use these quotes as a way to not actually go after the dreams they had for themselves. Is it sometimes lazy to say, yeah, I might not actually get what I want, so I'm just going to relax and take things at my pace, whereas you can actually work towards some of the things that you want in your life? So how do you distinguish between the two? Maybe just being lazy to go after the goals that you have, or just reclaiming your timeline and doing it at a pace that is necessary for you?
Fantastic question. So the reality is that people have this notion that I'm going to be happy when I become successful or when I hit certain timelines. And that is a toxic mental state. That's a disempowering state of mind, because success does not come before happiness. Happiness comes before success.
Yeah.
You don't have to be successful before you are happy. You should be happy so that you can be successful. Some people will say things like, until I get married, I won't love myself. Until I start earning a particular amount, I won't love myself. No, it doesn't work that way. You are putting the cart before the horse. You love yourself to achieve those things. Because a lot of people are in this rat race that until I get this, by the time you get this, you realize that that thing is not satisfying your soul. Then you said on that timeline, okay, maybe when I get this. Oh, when you were in school, you were like, oh, I want to graduate. When I graduate, I will feel better. Now you are a graduate, you don't feel better. Then you say, okay, when I get a job, I will feel better. Now you have a job, you don't feel any better. They say, oh, when I get married, I will feel better. Now you have a wife, you have a husband, you don't feel better. When you are now married, well, let me get a child, I will feel better. Now you are a parent, you don't feel better. So those things in themselves are not what bring happiness. Happiness is in you. And you have to make that conscious decision, because love is a conscious, intentional decision to accept yourself regardless. Until you accept yourself, outside of those accomplishments, you will never be happy. So It starts with self-acceptance first.
Yeah.
Before those things. Those things are not what define you. If you define yourself by those things, your internal state will be up and down. So I accept myself regardless. Man or human beings are designed to walk in love. What does that mean? You are designed to walk in self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Anytime you live out of self-acceptance, you begin to malfunction. And when you begin to malfunction, you're going to be disorganized, you're going to live in anxiety, you're going to live in shame, you're going to live in regret. Now, it is important to start with that. Now, you pursue your goals and timeline from a place of love. I accept myself. If I don't achieve those things, they don't make me a less of who I am. I accept myself. And that's where you find resilience. The center point of resilience is self-acceptance, love. I love myself in spite of what happens. However, that does not mean I'm not going to go after what I want. Now, let me give an analogy.
Yeah.
If you buy a very beautiful Rolls Royce, a beautiful, very expensive Rolls Royce, let's say you buy the Rolls Royce for $1 million. Now, and you go to the gas station to get gas for your car, but you got an adulterated gas. Let's say you got that gas for about $2. Now, an adulterated gas in a $1 million Rolls Royce. Let's say you start driving that Rolls Royce. What will happen to the car with an adulterated gas or fuel?
Ooh.
Any answers?
Yeah, I have no idea. Will it work?
It won't work. The car is going to break down. The car, once there's adulterated fuel, bad fuel in a beautiful, expensive Rolls Royce, as you drive, the car will break down. That's what happens. You might be very intelligent, have good goals, good intention.
Yeah.
But if what is driving you is fear, anxiety, I must meet this deadline, or regret, shame. If I don't meet this deadline, I'm going to be stigmatized. And that is what is driving. Even when you get to that goal, by the time you get to that goal, you are damaged.
Yeah.
You are exhausted. You are burnt out. And that's why we need to start telling people, see, you need to pursue these goals and timeline from a place of love, from a place of peace. That even if I don't meet this timeline, I won't punish myself.
Yeah.
I won't beat myself. Right? And I will love myself regardless. It's the healthy way to pursue those dreams and goals. Now,
you know what? We have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But man, we've been saying so many hallelujahs here, and you've been giving us so much great inspiration, I have to say, Dennis. Thank you so much. This has been such an encouraging conversation, man. And it seems like you have a well in you and you can continue giving us more. I wish you could have, but we have run out of time, Dennis. Where can people find you when they're looking for your inspiration or for your help? And maybe you could also facilitate some conversations on the continent. Let us know where they can go to find you.
Okay, yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, even YouTube, Dennis Agbeti. Just type Dennis Agbeti. You'll find me on all social media platforms, and I put out enough content to educate people more on these issues.
We've loved this one. It's been a very important becoming conversation. Thank you for being part of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
That's Executive Life, Relationship and Marriage Coach from Nigeria, Dennis Agbeti. Hey, what do you think about that one? Have you given yourself too many timelines and have you find yourself not achieving them? What's your take on this conversation? +2763 406 9126. Let's move things forward right now and get our second update of the sports today for our show. We've got Mosibudi Makura on the other side.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. Good morning once again from the sports desk. So it's an innings break at the moment between South Africa as well as Sri Lanka in the fifth ODI match of the ongoing Tri-Series out in Colombo. In Sri Lanka, it was South Africa who earlier won the toss and elected to field first, putting India to bat. Now, India got to 337 for the loss of 9 wickets in their allotted overs in the middle. The Proteas women needing to win this game. They have to win this game and the next game against Sri Lanka if they are to qualify for the final. So essentially the Proteas women now needing about 338 runs to win this match against India, and they were without their captain Laura Wolfart, who is out on the sidelines having fallen ill prior to the start of this match. So they will be without one of their biggest hitters in Laura Wolfart when they do go, of course, in search of a victory against India out in Colombo. This match being played at the R. Premedasa Stadium out in the city of Colombo in Sri Lanka. So we'll keep you updated of this match throughout the course of the morning. On to now football news. Mikel Arteta says Arsenal are ready to do something exceptional and start their own history by beating Paris Saint-Germain and reaching the Champions League final. Arsenal head into the second leg of their semi-final match against the French champions, trailing by 1 goal following Ousmane Dembele's early strike at the Emirates Stadium a week ago. The Gunners were second best for much of the first leg, but Arteta insists Arsenal are more than capable of defying the odds by winning in Paris and booking their place in this month's final in Munich, Germany.
We are here to make history. We have a big opportunity tomorrow. We bring a result that gives us so much clarity about what we have to do. A lot of learnings from the first leg as well, and how small the margins are between the two teams. The result, in my opinion, should have been very different to that one. So tomorrow, another opportunity to prove that and the right to be in the final.
At the same time, PSG forward Ousmane Dembele is fit for tonight's Champions League final. The second leg, of course, the semi-final against Arsenal after recovering from a hamstring injury. The France international was considered a doubt after coming off midway through the second half of last week's first leg at the Emirates Stadium. The 27-year-old who scored the only goal in North London missed Paris Saint-Germain's weekend League One defeat against Strasbourg but resumed training on Monday. Dembele, who moved to the French capital from Barcelona back in 2023, is PSG's top goal scorer this season with about 33 goals in all competitions. PSG, of course, leading the tie 1-0 on aggregate. Kickoff tonight is at 9 p.m. Central African time. The winner of this semi-final leg will face off with Inter Milan in the final in Munich. While South Africa showcased their attacking prowess with a commanding 4-1 win over Sierra Leone in a Total Energies CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations tie on Tuesday night in Ismailia. The match commenced with South Africa asserting early dominance as they looked to grab the early lead. Jody Ashene opened the scoring in the 13th minute with a precise right-footed shot from outside the box following a well-timed assist from Shaquille April. Now, despite Sierra Leone's effort to respond, the first half concluded with South Africa leading 1-0, who were very disciplined in their defence. The second half saw Amajita intensify their offensive efforts. Nayo Rabo doubled the lead for the South African side on the hour mark. Sierra Leone managed to reduce that deficit in the 69th minute when Mo Kamara found the back of the net after a cross from Osman Kamara in the goal that basically brought back confidence to the Sierra Leone side. However, South Africa regained control with substitute Thabang Mahlangu making a significant impact. Mahlangu netted twice in quick succession, first in the 86th minute and then again in the 89th minute. The victory now putting South Africa second behind Sierra Leone, who remain top of Group A despite that disappointing loss to South Africa. The good news, of course, for South Africa is that they have now a good chance of qualifying for the quarterfinals of the ongoing tournament. And finally, Liv's golf Dustin Johnson has been given a special invitation to compete in next week's PGA Championship at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte in North Carolina, according to the field unveiled on Tuesday Tuesday for this year's second major. Now, winners from the last 5 Masters tournaments are eligible to play in the PGA Championship, which means the former world number 1 Johnson's exemption from his 2020 triumph at Augusta National has run out. But according to the PGA Championship eligibility requirements, the PGA of America, which is the national governing body as well as the organizer of the major, it reserves the right to invite additional players who did not meet the eligibility criteria. Now, former world number 1 Johnson missed out on the cut at last month's Masters and then recorded 2 top 10 finishes in 7 live golf events so far this season. The 2 times major winner, who finished runner-up at the PGA Championship in 2019 as well as in 2020, will be one of the 16 live members in the 156 player field as from next week. And that concludes your sports news this hour. I'm back with the final sports update for the morning in the next hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibu Di Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Vue d'Afrique avec Joël Mouteba.
Sadio, quelles sont les motivations derrière la décision du général Mamadi Doumbouya d'accorder la grâce présidentielle à Moussa Dadis Camara?
Alors, officiellement ici, c'est pour des raisons de santé, et puis le décret aussi a ajouté que c'est dans un élan de réconciliation nationale et c'est un cas social. Mais au-delà de ça, les analystes ils voient sous un angle politique. Les moins critiques estiment que c'est pour peut-être faciliter un petit peu la réconciliation que pourrait tenter aujourd'hui le CNSD.
Vue d'Afrique. Du lundi au vendredi de 15h à 16h, temps universel.
Hey, let's quickly move on right now and get our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin and Palesa. Good morning. South Africa's Absa Group has announced that Tshimologo will step down as chairman of the bank on the 15th of July to make way for new leadership, and Rene van Wyk will succeed him, subject to regulatory approval. Mologo says he wants to refocus his attention on his family, his community commitments, and the several personal business initiatives outside the group that he needs to drive. Van Wyk was interim group's chief executive officer in 2019 and rejoined the Absa board as a non-executive director in 2020. Tantalite prices hit 2-year highs in Europe last week, driven by supply disruptions stemming from tensions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the world's leading producer of the mineral that supplies the electronics and aerospace industries. Tantalite is trading between $100 and $105 per pound range on the European spot market, its highest level since April 2023 and a 25% increase since unrest started in January. Joey Lehodi has more.
Tantalite contains tantalum, a metal used for capacitors, medical devices and components for nuclear reactors. The DRC has experienced a surge in violence since Rwandan-backed M23 rebels launched a major offensive. Senior analyst for critical minerals at information provider Argus says this is why many Western smelters are not sourcing tantalum from the DRC and Rwanda.
Nigeria's Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited has halted oil shipments via its Okodia-Ramwekpe pipeline in the coastal Rivers State following a spill. According to the Youths and Environmental Advocacy Center, the pipeline, which transports crude oil south to the Ramwekpe manifold for export via the Boni terminal, experienced the spill in the early hours of Monday in Ikata community in the Ahwada East District of the state. The environmental group's volunteer network initially detected the spill. The Namibia Statistics Agency, NSA, is currently conducting the 2025-26 Namibia Household Income and Expenditure Survey, a data collection exercise aimed at providing current information for national development planning. This will be the fifth household income and expenditure survey conducted, serving as the primary source of household income and expenditure data, crucial for calculating poverty and inequality indicators in Namibia. Statistician General and CEO at the Namibia Statistics Agency, Alex Shimwafeni.
Now, the primary objective is to collect detailed information on income as well as on spending patterns of households across the country. And here I'm referring to households because as a statistics agency, we normally do household-based surveys. Now, the data is very essential for measuring poverty levels in the country. We need to assess the living standards of people in the country.
12 of the largest European telecoms firms urged regulators to allocate more spectrum for mobile services, warning Europe risks falling behind the US in future 6G deployment. In a letter, operators including Britain's Vodafone, Germany's Deutsche Telekom, France's Orange and Italy's TIM are demanding the entire upper 6 GHz band be made available for mobile networks. The upper 6 GHz band is one of the few remaining large blocks of mid-band spectrum available. Let's have a look at financial indicators this morning. $1 in Nigeria is at 1,000 naira 605. In Botswana, 13 pula 47. Kenya, the dollar is at 128 shilling 346. Zambia, 27 kwacha 27. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 69. Russia, 80 rubles 92. India, 84 rupee 40. China, 71.21. South Africa, $1 is at 18 rand 23. $1 is at 75 pence to the British pound and 88 to the euro. Commodities, gold is at $3,386. Platinum at $984 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $63.06 a barrel. That's all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine, weekdays 6 till 9.
We continue with our coverage of recent arrests of activists and journalists in Harare during Monday's mass stay-away and protest. Dr. Tadini Masaya, who's the Secretary for the Information and Media of the United Zimbabwe Alliance, an opposition party founded in March 2022.
Every Zimbabwean is entitled to expressing themselves, whether they are ZANU-PF or they belong to any other political party or they do not. So what Geza and those that believe in his call did is within their rights. However, we also fully acknowledge that it is an internal fight, and as UZA, we did not participate in that internal fight. We are not going to be used as pawns as what happened in 2017 to usher in a different face for ZANU-PF. It does not matter who is the face of ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is going to remain the same.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
I've been thinking about peace and how to keep it once I've found it. I've been thinking about peace.
An audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage.
Of this great song, beautiful music here from the African perspective. This is Channel Africa. Of course, it's 10:49 Central Africa time, and we're moving on with our TikTok, where we take a look at what's going on there on TikTok. You know, there's always this notion, right, Ben? You're black and I'm black, right? And
well, I think so. That's what they said.
I think so. That's what
but
they said.
Earlier on, you were calling it brown. So there's a new term.
Black and brown. No, there's a different. That's a different term, right? Black and brown. We're both black.
Okay.
Well, classified as black. So brown would be like in South Africa we'd call like coloureds or you know.
So we're not
other
brown people?
well, not the what society calls black and brown people, right?
Okay.
But either way, according to
I
societal
thought brown
norms,
people were also black people.
yeah, it depends where you are in the world.
Okay,
I think.
let
right?
me stop being paid.
Yes, stop being paid. Listen to the story.
Sure.
And usually we have this thing like when I go to your house and I've never been there before, your mother's house, for example, because my mother's house, my mother's black, your mother's black. If I go to your mother's house and I'm looking for the dishwashing liquid, I know the exact cupboard to open to find the dishwashing liquid at your house, because it's usually at the same place it would be at my house,
which is where
under the sink, under the kitchen sink, right? Is that where your mother would put the dishwashing liquid?
Pretty much.
100%. So there's also like certain things, and not just something like the dishwashing liquid. There's certain places to find things in black homes where every parent or all black homes put that particular thing.
Like what?
So a lot of the time, just like the dishwashing liquid, I mean, I'm sure there are other examples as well, right? But
like I'm sure if you are looking for a broom, you'll find it next to the fridge.
Yes.
Somewhere
next to the fridge. So in that little corner. Right? So there's a way in which it feels like all black people know how to navigate a home or a space in very similar ways. Similarly, if you go to a black party in South Africa, if you go to a black party in Nigeria, if you go to a black party in America, there's going to be a dance that the black people are going to do at one point in the night. In America, they call it the electric slide. In South Africa, we call it the codesa, the routine, and it's one routine that it seems like all black people do,
especially at weddings
across the world. Especially at weddings or family gatherings, and just generally at all parties. And so it just brings the notion, right? There's certain things that black parents do that seem universal across black people across the continent and across the world, and it also it also comes to the space of navigating discipline in a lot of black homes, and black parents, especially black mothers, are very similar in that notion. And there's two girls that I found on TikTok that were speaking about that. So let's listen to this clip and let me know if you have a black parent out there, if this would also be something that would hold true for your mother as well.
Our mom is black, so we don't do that. We don't spend the night at people's house without a full FBI background check. We don't tell her what we're about to do. We ask her. We don't say, huh, when she calls us. Because if you could, huh, you could hear. We don't talk to her like she's one of our friends. Because she's not. We don't talk back. We would like to live. Thank you very much. We do not slam doors. Not in this house. We don't ask why when she says no. You better not. We do not call adults by their first name. No, ma'am. We do not tell her, let Susie, Mom, let Susie do. Because Susie ain't her child. Our mom is black.
Yeah, love that, right? And so many of those hold true. Like if my mom says, Palesa, right?
You can't say hey.
I can't say hey. I have to say either ma. That's what they use, right? So you saying ma, mother, are you calling me? And also, if she says Palesa and she keeps quiet, that means I have to come where she is. I can't just sit and wait for the information wherever I am. I have to get on my feet and walk towards you. And that's universal, because trust me, I'm also the same with my son. Sure. If I say Loazi and you say Ma,
I thought you were a progressive mother.
I am a progressive mother, but come to me. I'm calling you. Come to me.
That's not progressive.
Hey, I'm still a black mother after all. Progression only ends at a certain point. I'm still a black mother.
That's very interesting. What's your take on that one in terms of the common things that we have in our African experiences? Let us know on our live stream right here on our Facebook page, or also on our WhatsApp number +27 63406 9126. Dyson Chombeza, thank you for joining us on that live stream. Stephen Chandalala, I see you as well. Pilco Oliveira, Victor, I see you as well. Thank you for joining us on that live stream. It's 10:55 Central African time. Let's go back to the music.
You make me happy, 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 happy.
only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is
Now, this
a
is The
story.
Soil. This one is titled Happy. And we're wrapping up this hour of the show. Let's hear your stories about what you had planned out, what the grand plan for your life was. And, whether or not the grand plan is actually going according to that. Or maybe you've met some speed bumps along the way. What are those speed bumps? And are you happy with the overall outcome? Are you happy with your life as is? At Channel Africa 1, let's keep those conversations going. Also on our WhatsApp and direct line, +27 63 406 9126. As usual, more conversations on the other side. We're wrapping up this hour of the show. Going into our next hour where the conversations don't stop. We'll be going into our Live Well feature. That's our health feature here on The Move. And today we're speaking about something called migraines. I don't know if you've had them or not before. And there's a big difference between a headache and a migraine. And we're going to be unpacking that in the following hour. But for now, Onele Nzinzi is back. It's time for our final news update for the morning.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Palesa. Looking at your top stories, the DRC and Rwanda restart peace talks and the process of electing a new pope gets underway. Your latest news. Greetings to our listeners. The Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebels have restarted peace talks in Qatar, part of a diplomatic effort to end fighting in Congo's war-ravaged east. The two sides last met in Doha in April to discuss a deal that would end fighting this year that has killed thousands, displaced hundreds of thousands more, and raised fears of a wide regional war. Two rebel sources said the M23 rebels had sent a lower-level delegation than in the earlier rounds last month and have complained that the government delegation had not been empowered to make any decisions in Doha. Sudan's army has reported that its anti-aircraft system intercepted drones targeting the country's largest naval base in the wartime capital, Port Sudan, earlier today. Port Sudan has been hit by days of assault, included report drone strikes by Sudan's paramilitary Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces that have torched the country's biggest fuel depot and damaged its main gateway for humanitarian aid. The city on the Red Sea coast became the base for the army-aligned government after the RSF swept through much of the capital Khartoum at the start of the conflict in 2023. A Zimbabwean journalist has been released on bail after spending more than 2 months in prison awaiting trial. Blessed Mhlanga was arrested in February when the TV station where he worked broadcast a press conference critical of the Zimbabwean president. The BBC's Shengai Nyoka reports.
The court granted Mhlanga $500 bail and ordered him to surrender his passport during the hearing, his fourth attempt at bail and second appeal to the High Court. Zimbabwe has faced increasing pressure, including from the UK House of Lords, over his lengthy stay in prison on 2 charges of inciting violence. His lawyers argued that a substantial time had passed since the state had asked for more time to investigate the case against him. Mhlanga denies any connection to 2 broadcasts in which war veterans called for President Emmerson Mnangagwa to resign. His trial is due to start next week.
U.S. President Donald Trump's administration may deport migrants to Libya for the first time this week. This is part of his immigration crackdown, and despite Washington's past condemnation of Libya's harsh treatment of detainees. The Republican president, who made immigration a major issue during his election campaign, has launched aggressive enforcement action since taking office, surging troops to the southern border and pledging to deport millions of immigrants in the United States illegally. Trump's administration has tried to encourage migrants to leave voluntarily by threatening steep fines, trying to strip away legal status and deporting migrants to notorious prisons in Guantanamo Bay and El Salvador. Lastly, the election of a new pope has gotten underway in the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. Catholic cardinals from all over the world have gathered behind closed doors, casting their votes for a new pope. The election comes after the passing of Pope Francis last month after suffering stroke and a heart failure. Trent Murray reports.
Today there is just one round of voting taking place. It's quite unlikely, we imagine, that they will select one in the first round. It hasn't happened in hundreds of years. If they don't select one today, then we will wait 24 hours more or less, and then they will have 4 votes tomorrow and another 4 votes on Friday if they need it. They can then take a break for the weekend and come back on Monday. But that's sort of the timeline that we're looking at. But white smoke, that is the symbol we are all watching for to get word on whether they've made a decision.
Now recapping on your top stories, the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebels have restarted peace talks in Qatar, part of a diplomatic effort to end the fighting in Congo's war-ravaged east. The 2 sides last met in Doha in April to discuss a deal that would end fighting this year. Now, for any stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Ntsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
5 minutes past 11 Central Africa time. It's the third hour of On the Move this Wednesday morning. We are midweek and we still keep things going. Definitely lots of energy for the rest of the week. We're broadcasting live from the SABC studios in Johannesburg, South Africa. And we are wherever you are. All you need to do is tap in and be a part of the Channel Africa family on channelafrica.co.za, on the SABC Plus app, as well as on our audio bouquets, DSTV channel 802 and OpenView HD channel 628. We continue with the conversations of the day in our health feature called Live Well. We're speaking about migraines. These can severely affect the quality of life for people who suffer from them, making work, social interactions, and even simple tasks unimaginably difficult. We found out exactly how migraines happen, what separates them from normal headaches. We'll be chatting to neurologist Dr. Tumi Manoko, who'll chat to us about managing migraines as well as understanding the types of migraines and their triggers. So stay with us. There's still a lot of chat about in this hour of the show. Of course, join our live stream on all our social media platforms. We see you, we want you to see us, and we want you to engage with us in various ways. Where are you tuned in from? Let us know so we can shout out your city, your country, or your town.
Hey, it is 7 minutes past 11 o'clock Central African time. It's our final hour. We're making our final turn into our content until midday Central African time. If you miss some of the conversations, guess what? You can catch up. www.channelafrica.co.za is the place to be. And all you have to do as soon as you arrive there is click on programs. It will take you to our podcast. So we always curate that for you, especially to make sure that you can have an online experience of On the Move and our other programming here on Channel Africa. Remember, it's www.channelafrica.co.za. It's definitely the place to be. It's definitely the place to go. And don't be shy. Get there and become part of the Channel Africa experience. Go to programs. You'll have our podcast experiences there. So it's a fantastic way. Oh, yeah, we've been telling you. SABC Plus app. That's also another way to listen to us here on our show. SABC Plus app can be downloaded on any app store. It's simple. Just go to any app store, search for SABC Plus. It's fantastic and easy to log in and sign up for. And then you go to the radio station section and then you can find the On The Move content and you can find Channel Africa there, of course. And Channel Africa is in the radio stations bouquet section. So go there and you'll be able to tune in our radio station 24/7. Can you imagine that? 24/7 on your mobile phone. It is as easy as that. That's the SABC Plus app. Very easy to find. Remember, we're also on DSTV channel 802, OpenView 628, and that website again is another place where you can stream us. www.channelafrica.co.za.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu masuala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine, weekdays 6 till 9.
We continue with our coverage of recent arrests of activists and journalists in Harare during Monday's mass stay-away and protest. Dr. Tadini Masaya, who's the Secretary for the Information and Media of the United Zimbabwe Alliance, an opposition party founded in March 2022.
Every Zimbabwean is entitled to expressing themselves, whether whether they're ZANU-PF or they belong to any other political party or they do not. So what Geza and those that believe in his call did is within their rights. However, we also fully acknowledge that it is an internal fight, and as UZA, we did not participate in that internal fight. We are not going to be used as pawns as what happened in 2017 to usher in a different face for ZANU-PF. It does not matter who is the face of ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is going to remain the same.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. 9 to 12 midday Central African Time. On the move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
You know, sometimes we sit there and you're like, I have a headache, and it doesn't feel so good, right? And we have a lot of quick fixes for headaches. Some people just like to drink a little bit of water. Some people just take some time to relax and maybe take a nap. And others will just pop a quick painkiller and one or two, and that headache will disappear. But some people have a more chronic form of headache that just cannot stop, and sometimes so severe that you actually cannot do anything. These are called migraines, and they can severely affect the quality of life for people who suffer from them, making work, social interaction, and even simple tasks unimaginably difficult. With an estimated 15% of the global population affected by migraines, the impact of them on a daily life and productivity is significant and cannot be underestimated. Well, we're finding out a little bit more about migraines, what they are, what types of migraines exist, what triggers them, but also how to manage them. We have on the line with us neurologist Dr. Dumi Manogo. Thank you so much, Dr. Dumi, for your time once again. What are migraines? I mean, there's a headache. Is it just a bad headache, or is it more than that?
Good morning, Palesa and Benjamin. Thank you for having me. To get to your questions, what are migraines? Essentially, migraines are a neurological disorder that compromises primary headaches, essentially. And a lot of the times when people think about migraines, they think about just the headache part of it, but it's actually more of a syndromic type disorder. There's other things that are associated with the headache above just the pain that they feel. So essentially, just to round it off, it's a primary headache disorder that can encompass other symptoms as well in people that suffer from them.
Well, more than just a headache. I'm hearing that for the very first time. What other symptoms are associated with migraines?
All right. So we can think of migraines in a three-step type of a cycle. The first step is what we refer to as the prodrome of the headache. And during this period, this is where the patient themselves don't experience pain yet. But what they have is mood changes, leaning towards the depressive side. There's a poverty of concentration. So even if they're at work or at school, they have inability to take in information, inability to concentrate and focus at the task at hand. There's lability of mood that can accompany this. And there's also a variety in the physiological changes that can affect the eating habits. There may be a loss of appetite or an increase of appetite of certain foods. They may have various cravings depending on the individual person. And that's the first part of the migraine, right? And then the second part of the migraine would be the actual pain itself, which can be quite moderate to severe and affecting your quality of life, impairing functioning. That's the second part. And then the last part is the post-drome. The post-drome and the prodrome that we talked about earlier in the first step can be quite similar, and it can last for about 2 to 3 days, depending on individual people. So even though people may have a headache for about, a few hours, like 4 to 72 hours, but sufferers of migraine actually have this prolonged symptomatology that can go for up to a week or 2 weeks even. So it's an entire syndrome altogether.
So how do you tell the difference? I'm sure for people who suffer from migraines, there must have been a first time when it started happening. Yeah. And so it started off as like, I have a headache. And then tomorrow as well, I have a little bit of pain and I have a headache. So how then do you tell if it's the beginning of something more serious than just a headache?
Okay, so luckily with migraines, there's worlds of research that's been done on the topic. So that our understanding of the migraine itself and how to diagnose it is quite clear, and that can be done at initial presentation, even for some patients. And typically, the key things would be in the description that the patient provides of what they're feeling and what they experience during these pain headaches. So I'll just go into detail so that everybody knows what we're talking about. So, for example, with regards to the pain that the migraine causes itself, usually it will be, like we know, it will be a headache. And the headache typically is unilateral. That means that it affects one side of the head. So a patient would say it's always on the left, always on the right. But it's not uncommon for some people to have it bilaterally on both sides of the head. Another key feature of a migraine is that the duration of the headache itself. Typically, it will last between 4 to 72 hours without treatment. And another thing is the quality or the character of the headache is typically that of a throbbing type headache. Some patients can say that it seems as though it is in synchrony with the beat of my heart. The throbbing quality type is one of the key features. Another thing is the things that when you're having the headache that you may experience with the headache as well. So now we talk about there's this nausea and vomiting and there's photophobia, and that means that you are not able to tolerate light. So these are the patients that will need to be in a dark room when they have a headache. They can't tolerate light at all because it makes the headache worse. And there may also be phonophobia, where they are not able to tolerate sound, even if it's not even that much of a loud sound. Sometimes even just the pin dropping can aggravate the headache itself. And another thing, key feature of the headache is that it is aggravated by physical activity. So that means that this person is not able to live a good quality of life because of the headache. And you find that it leads to avoidance of certain activities. Some people will miss work that affects their financial standing. Some people will miss school affecting their academics, or missing things like your gym, physical activity, or just limiting yourself because of the headache. Those are the key features of a migraine, and a constellation of a clinical syndrome like that does tend to make us see that, okay, this person does have a migraine. And in addition to that, like you had also said that it's episodic, so it's not like a one-time thing that then goes away. It's a tendency to have this repeated constellation of symptoms that make you a migraine or a migraine sufferer.
So if you're someone who then, realizes or, sees, okay, I think this is a migraine, not just a normal headache, who do you go to? Once you go to your doctor and you get a diagnosis, is there anything you can do about migraines?
Oh, yes, yeah. There is lots that we can do, thankfully, with regards to the migraines. To address the first question as to who do you go to, any health facility will be the first starting point. Because then from then onwards, you will then be referred to a neurologist, which is the best place for you to be seen, because they'll be able to make the diagnosis and to give you appropriate treatment. And with regards to the treatment itself, there's multiple things that we can do. Typically, we want to group them into two main strategies. So we want a strategy that we refer to as non-pharmacological. That just means that we try to manage the pain without using any drug therapy, any medicines, and see if we can, in some way, alleviate the headaches.
Well, that sounds, sorry to stop you there, that sounds a little counterintuitive, because most of the time when we think about headaches, the first thing that people want to do is pop a pill. So what are these non-medicinal methods?
Yes, so we do have non-pharmacological treatments or non-medicinal treatments. I must tell you that even though we may start with the non-pharmacological treatment, most of the time we end up having to move on to the pharmacological ones. But it's good practice to employ these strategies, because in a small population of people, we may actually win just with non-medicational treatments. So this would include, like, for example, identifying things that may be associated with increased frequency of your migraines, like your sleep. Having good sleep hygiene is good. So if you don't sleep enough, or if you're on your phone right before bedtime, there's that artificial light that's coming in that predisposes you to being more susceptible, essentially, to the migraines. And another thing is physical activity in general is good for patients, and it may also be protective when it comes to migraines. And then other things that are not really supported by worlds of research, but maybe helpful to some people, is like when you have that pain syndrome that you experience every time, using ice packs or warm pads on the head, massages. If that works for the patient, then we may employ that. But like I said, we will continually assess the patient and see the need for treatment, for drug treatment. And even within the drug treatment, when we've stepped onto that part of treatment, there's two broad categories that we want to address with our migraine. The first one is that we want to treat the attack of the pain. Another thing is that we want to break the cycle that leads you to having that migraine. There's acute treatment for the attack, and then preventative therapy that works to prevent you from having migraines over and over again.
All right. Let's stop you there for now. We need to take a break, and we can continue after this. Maybe we can continue to unpack some of those methods that you are mentioning, but also managing them over time. If someone has chronic migraines and they just never stop, how do you have a manageable interaction with them so that you can have a normal life, you can still have normal work life, normal social interactions, and make daily tasks a little bit easier. We're speaking about migraines with Dr. Tumi Manoko, who is a neurologist. Let's continue that conversation after this break.
Mix Vibration sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons accueillir sur ces plateaux de Mix Vibration un artiste pas comme les autres. Il est exceptionnel. Il se classe résolument dans la trajectoire des artistes qui défendent le patrimoine du folklore africain, mais aussi de la rumba. Ici, Jérémy Tchani.
En tout cas, je vous dis merci à la Channel Africa, à tout le monde qui nous suit. Dans la vie, si tu veux aller loin, il faut comprendre les temps. Il y a ceux-là qui étaient dans leur temps, mais à cause d'une mauvaise conduite, à cause des gens qui l'accompagnaient, à cause de sa famille, à cause beaucoup de choses, son temps passé.
Voilà, donc il faut toujours gérer le temps. Chaque chose a son temps, dit-on. Et la couronne ne dure pas éternellement, dit-on. Donc il faut toujours gérer le temps que Dieu vous a donné sur la terre. C'est le message que Chani nous amène aujourd'hui sur Mix Vibration à Channel Africa.
Mix Vibration, tous les dimanches de 18h à 19h, temps universel.
Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa on the move.
Hey, did you know that migraines can be actually deadly? It's not something that you should take lightly. And that's what we're speaking about in Live Well today with Dr. Tumi Manoko, who is a neurologist. Yeah, you were talking about managing migraines and finding ways to deal with it. You can continue your train of thought, Dr. Tumi.
All right. We had spoken about the non-pharmacological treatment, and then we also went on to start speaking about the pharmacological treatment, the drug therapy of the migraines. And then, an important thing to mention is that there are two parts to this. The first part would be to treat the attacks of the migraines, to remove the pain acutely when you do experience it, and the second part being to prevent you from having further migraines, essentially further pain attacks. Now, starting with the first branch of the treatment, we do, there's painkillers that we have, right? There's multiple of them that's been approved that show good efficacy for management of treatment of migraine attacks. So that's what we'll start with. And usually, a lot of the painkillers are the over-the-counter medicine that people have access to. So we can use, there's aspirin, there's Panado, there's Brufen that we can use, right? And then what we want when managing people is to be as specific to you as possible. So, for example, if you have ulcers or another medical condition that prevents you from taking a particular type of medicine, we can avoid that and use another one. So luckily with migraines, we do have a whole bunch of drugs that we can use, and we can be specific depending on what our patient needs without causing any harm. So that's the one part of the treatment, the attack, the treating the acute attack. I'm moving on to preventative therapy.
Okay.
Preventative, yes, yeah.
Go ahead, sure, feel free.
Preventative therapy, we use it for people migraineurs that have more than 2 headaches in a month, because migraine headaches are quite severe, and they can last for, like I said, 4 hours to 72 hours. So if you have that, even twice a month, it can be disabling enough for you to need preventative therapy. So that's a population that will choose to go into preventative therapy. And even amongst the preventative therapy group, there's also a bunch of medicines that we have. And again, these medicines, it's not a one-size-fits-all type thing. It's very tailored, very specific. And if one treatment doesn't work for you after having been trialed for a certain amount of time, we can then change and give you another one. So there's a whole bunch of drugs that we have available. And another topic that I also want to speak on that Palesa mentioned earlier on is the chronic migraines, because we know that with migraines, it can either be episodic, where it happens every once in a while, say 6 times in a month or 7 times in a month. But then you get people that have chronic migraines that now it's not episodic anymore. And when you say chronic, it means that out of 30 days in a month, 15 of those days, a person has a headache, which can be very disabling, very debilitating. So for those types of people, there is another specific branch of treatment for them that we can employ, right? We can use there's Botox that we use. I know people typically associated with aesthetics or the beauty industry, but there's a certain type that's very good for migraines. And another thing is that given now this new world with advancing technology, we also have neuromodulators, like electrical devices that we can use to assist people with chronic migraines.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that chronic migraine. What would the cause of it be to take it from just it being like an episodic thing to something that is maybe more constant and something that's always there?
That's a very good question, right? I do want to talk about the chronicity of a migraine. Palesa mentioned earlier that, a person will have a migraine or headache and then they pop a pill and it makes them go away. So, right, here's the thing. People that take pain medicines a lot, overconsumption of pain medicines, can then convert your migraine, not actually convert it, but it can then cause another type of headache disorder that makes you now have more migraines more than 15 days in a 30-day period. That may mimic a chronic migraine, and I want us to make a distinction between the two. So you can get people that have episodic migraines that then overuse analgesia, overuse pain medication, which then cause them to have another type of headache that we use analgesia overuse or rebound headache, right? And that is different from the primary chronic migraine that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
With regards to what causes it, actually, it's the same pathophysiology or same mechanism that causes the episodic or the migraine with your auras or migraine without auras. It's the same mechanism. It's not any different from the episodic migraine that we talk about. So it's a whole bunch of factors that all come together to interplay to give you this syndrome. So there's a genetic predisposition that you have. As of date, there's no specific gene that has been identified as yet, but we do know that there's a genetic component because we found that people treating a patient with a migraine, more often times they will tell you that I also have a family member with the same type of syndrome.
Sure.
So there's a genetic component to it, but there's also a person's own physiological contributions to it. For example, we talk about the chemistry of your brain. There's some chemicals that we have in our brains. One in particular would be a serotonin. We found that people with migraines have a decrease in this particular chemical. And actually, when we come to our treatment, we also include these chemicals that we find that are missing in people with migraines. And another system is what we call it the trigeminal-vascular system. It's essentially a system that you have in your brain that makes you more sensitive to pain. So we found that people with migraines have an activation of that system, and that's what causes them to have the headaches.
Okay.
So it's an interplay between those three big features.
Sounds very interesting. Not interesting because it is a good thing, but interesting because the degree of it kind of has many variables, Dr. Manuko. But that's where we're going to leave it there right now. Thank you for joining us once again on the show. We always love your health advice because you always give us kind of an understanding of what's happening with our bodies in a very simple way. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Benjamin.
That's neurologist Dr. Tumi Manuko taking us to 11:30 Central African Time. Well, let's quickly move on right now and get our sports update. We see Mosibudi Makura is wrapping things up for the day, not just for us here on the show, but she's been here throughout the morning. So let's see what she has for us.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. We'll start here. So Inter Milan produced a dramatic late turnaround, this to beat Barcelona 7-6 on aggregate in a thrilling all-time classic of a UEFA Champions League semi-final. It means a second Champions League final in 3 seasons for 3-time European champions Inter Milan after 2 legs of incredible drama which saw 13 goals in total and a tie turned on its head on several occasions. Barcelona's head coach Hansi Flick expressed mixed emotions on his side as they were dumped out of the UEFA Champions League semi-final. The German tactician expressed disappointment in the outcome but also praised his team for their effort on the night.
I know that everyone is disappointed, but we could be disappointed while we are out because we invested a lot of this match and came back again, and I think some decisions were 50-50 always for Inter, but it's like that. And we have to accept it. It's football, and at the end, but we can be proud about our performance. And this was really, I'm proud. I'm proud of my team.
Meanwhile, Mikel Arteta says Arsenal are ready to do something exceptional and start their own history by beating PSG and reaching the Champions League final. Arsenal head into the second leg of their semi-final against the French champions, trailing by 1 goal following Ousmane Dembele's early strike in the first leg out at the Emirates just a week ago. The Gunners were second best for much of the first leg, but Arteta insists Arsenal are more than capable of defying the odds by winning in Paris and booking their place in this month's final in Munich, Germany.
We are here to make history. We have a big opportunity tomorrow. We bring a result that gives us so much clarity about what we have to do. A lot of learnings from the first leg as well, and how small the margins are between the 2 teams. The result, in my opinion, should have been very different to that one. So tomorrow, another opportunity to prove that and the right to be in the final.
Right, so kickoff for that game is at 9 p.m. Central African time out at the Stade de France in Paris. On to this now. Cristiano Ronaldo's eldest son has been called up to the Portugal under-15 soccer side for the first time. The 14-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo Jr. is at Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia with his father, who signed for the Pro League club in December of 2022. So Portugal great Ronaldo posted a picture on social media of his son's name on the national team list. Ronaldo Jr. has been called up for the youth tournament in Croatia to be played between the 13th as well as the 18th of May, with Portugal scheduled to play Japan, Greece as well as England. Zambia snatched a dramatic 1-0 victory over Tanzania in a tense Total Energies CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations Group A encounter on Tuesday night, thanks to a last-minute penalty converted by Joseph Sabobo deep into stoppage time in Ismailia. The game looked destined for a draw after both sides battled in an intense physical contest with about few clear-cut chances, but Zambia kept pressing until the very end. The decisive moment arrived in the 11th minute of added time after VAR awarded a penalty when Emmanuel Mutala was found in the box by Ismail Ali. Now, Tanzania's hopes of advancing are all but done as they remain rooted at the bottom of the group with no points from their 3 matches. Zambia, meanwhile, moving to 3rd position in Group A with a total of 5 points. And finally, Muay Thai, also known as Thai boxing, is a traditional Thai martial art as well as combat sport that utilizes punches, kicks, elbows, as well as knees, as well as clinching techniques. Now, the sport is also known for its powerful as well as versatile striking techniques and its cultural heritage. Speaking to Channel Africa Sport, veteran fighter as well as coach Mobite unpacks the development of the sport in South Africa.
It existed for centuries. In South Africa, the sport died down in the early 2000s, and the bodies were re-established recently, I'd say about 10 years ago. And when they started bringing fights back into the country and the development started again, and in that, we're starting to get the wheels turning and more people are getting invested in the sport. And more people are being exposed internationally to Muay Thai from South Africa.
Just a quick one regarding the cricket. The Proteas women on 55 for the loss of 1 wicket. This after 12 overs, now chasing 283 runs against India to win this match. The current run rate is 4 runs per over, but require about 7 runs per over. India having gotten to 337 for 9 after 50 allotted overs in the middle. And that's a wrap from the sports desk at this hour. For any sports stories that you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
So the artist that I just played now went by the name A.B. Cresto. So A standing for Alfred, B for Benjamin. What's your take on people having 2 names? Is it because maybe you can't decide on a name?
I've heard people saying that they are named because of whatever that was happening around.
This is things I also see now. I'm sure now a baby born in the Eastern Cape is called Nama Tarif.
You see now? Or it was a born baby when it was, what do you call these things we used to pay for men driving?
Nama Itol.
Nama Itol, listen.
Well, Nama Confident is leaving.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa on the move.
Thank you, Musibudi, for that sports update. Once again, our latest and final business update for the morning with Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Palesa and Benjamin. Good morning. Tantalite prices hit 2-year highs in Europe last week, driven by supply disruptions stemming from tensions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the world's leading producer of the mineral that supplies the electronics and aerospace industries. Tantalite is trading between $100 and $105 per pound range on the European spot market, its highest level since April 2023 and a 25% increase since unrest started in January. Joey Lihodi has more.
Tantalite contains tantalum, a metal used for capacitors, medical devices and components for nuclear reactors. The DRC has experienced a surge in violence since M23 rebels launched a major offensive. Senior analyst for critical minerals at information provider Argus says this is why many Western smelters are not sourcing tantalum from the DRC and Rwanda.
The G20 conference on financial inclusion for women wraps up today in Rustenburg in the northwest province of South Africa. The two-day conference brought together local and international stakeholders to advance strategies that promote women participation in the economy. Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, says there is a need for urgency of eliminating challenges that restrict women's economic empowerment, particularly those related to transportation and exporting goods.
If you talk the transportation of goods in the region, sometimes there are difficulties experienced in crossing the borders of countries, different countries, because of regulations that get passed and promulgated by different countries. That make it very difficult for women who are small businesses or medium businesses, entrepreneurs, to actually transport their goods.
Meanwhile, the Premier of the Northwest Province, Lazarus Mohosi, says the Northwest Province views the conference as a strategic opportunity to market itself.
And we believe that from a point of view of marketing the province, from our point of view is that this is an important event because we believe that we want all people who are here who are coming from other countries to come later as either as tourists or bring investment to the province.
South Africa's Absa Group has announced that Tshimologo will step down as chairman of the bank on the 15th of July to make way for new leadership, and Rene van Wyk will succeed him subject to regulatory approval. Molugo says he wants to refocus his attention on his family, his community commitments, and several personal business initiatives outside the group that he needs to drive. Van Wyk was interim group chief executive officer in 2019 and rejoined the Absa board as a non-executive director in 2020. And 12 of the largest European telecoms firms urged regulators to allocate more spectrum for mobile services, warning Europe risks falling behind the US in future 6G deployment. In a letter, operators including Britain's Vodafone, Germany Deutsche Telekom, France's Orange and Italy's TIM are demanding the entire upper 6 GHz band be made available for mobile networks. The upper 6 GHz band is one of the few remaining large blocks of mid-band spectrum available. Let's have a look at financial indicators this morning. $1 in Nigeria is at 1,000 naira 605. In Botswana, 13 pula 47. Kenya, the dollar is at 128 shilling 346. Zambia, 27 kwacha 27. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 69. Russia, 80 rubles 92. India, 84 rupee 40. China, 71.21. South Africa, $1 is at 18 rand 23. $1 is at 75 pence to the British pound and 88 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is at $3,382, platinum at $984 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil $62.74 a barrel. That is all from me. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The rhythm of Africa. The pulse of the continent. This is Channel Africa. The African perspective. A living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is
Mamela. Beautiful music from the continent, and of course great conversations accompanied with them. We keep things moving right here on The Move. Really good conversations that we had today. Thank you so much for joining our live stream and being a part of the Channel Africa family. Had a look at a phenomenal online initiative called Flow Tech for Girls running across the continent in the first hour of the show. Then we moved on to check about your life checklist. Did things go according to plan with the way that you wanted to? Graduate by 22, married by 30, kids soon after, in a corner office by 35? Or did you have to sort of adjust and readjust your script as things go, like most of us? We had a chat with Dennis Agbeti, executive life, relationship and marriage coach from Nigeria. And of course, we just found out the ins and outs of migraines with Dr. Dumi Manuku, a neurologist. Spoke to us about managing migraines, understanding them, and also understanding their triggers. So hopefully you've gotten quite a lot of conversations and understanding of some of the conversations we've had today. But if you've missed any of those, head on over to our website, www.channelafrica.co.za. Click on the programs tab that you can find on our homepage. Navigate your way through all these amazing shows on Channel Africa, like Africa Rise and Shine, like the Africa Update, like the Upside, and many, many more. But this is the show you're looking for. This is On The Move, the multi-award winning On The Move. And under our show's details, that is where you can find our podcasts. And of course, that's another way to continue being part of the Channel Africa family, even if you're not tuned in on air. In a couple of minutes, and that's about 2 minutes. 12 minutes. I'm trying to count. I obviously didn't do that great at maths.
You're not counting you're not counting my change.
No, I'm not counting your change at all. But at least I can talk. At least I can do that for a living. Not too bad after all. In 12 minutes, in 11 minutes
there we
now.
Go. Don't embarrass me in front of the people.
We're going to be moving on to the Africa Update with Lulu Gabu. She's going to come through in a couple of minutes to let us know what's coming up there. And then we keep things moving with the rest of the show right here on The Move. Don't forget our podcast. And of course, course, keep joining our live stream. We love to see you there, and we love to shout you out wherever country, city, or town you're from. Well, before we go to the wrap up, let's bring back Davido featuring Fave. This one is titled Kante.
More than just a platform, it's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa. Partner with Channel Africa because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs.
Of today, the On the Move show. This one is titled 5 Star, taking us to 11:54 Central Africa time. Lulu Gabu is here to let us know what's coming up on today's Africa Update. Good morning, Lulu.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Hump Day. All right, so today coming up on Africa Update, the opposition parties in Ghana have condemned the suspension of the country's Chief Justice. We spoke to Erica Egbeta Mawena, our correspondent there, just the other day, and a political analyst who also just touched on this big issue. The fact that there are two things. The opposition political parties are not happy with this process, and the citizens haven't brought into, what's that word? They haven't been given information as to the reasons why she's been suspended, and this is also a big contention there. But apparently how they run things in Ghana is the fact that they don't give out information of the alleged charges or allegations until they've been investigated. So it's a wait and see type of thing. And then also there have been calls for a fundamental shift in how African higher education institutions prepare students for life after graduation. I think this is also quite key because we've seen, in terms of redirecting what young people study and what is needed and what is lacking in our society in terms of employment, where we don't have to get expats to come and do the work. So there's a lot coming up on the Africa Update today.
Stay with us right here on Channel Africa. The Africa Update takes place in the next hour from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Africa time with Lulu Gabu. From us, the On The Move team, it's been a good day. Have yourself a fantastic day and God bless. We leave you with this one. Vanessa MD with Nobody, featuring K.O. on this one.
It's a blessing kujenga family ni sumu kwetu ni nikupeleke Mpumalanga nahisi njozi nipo naye bango tujozi pingo naye hakuna chozi nikiwa naye vile tulipatana naye.
Sports, business, music, and lifestyle. We deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business,